let's talk about the Nuggets first. What are your thoughts on the last couple games of that series?
Oh man, I don't want to give him an excuse, but foul trouble kind of cost them that series.
It did.
But is that their fault or is that the refs' fault? Like Mike Malone was trying to paint it on the refs. You seen Jamal Murray and Jokic kind of being baffled in those
Mm-hmm.
post-game interviews. Like it's a sad way for your season to end, but like some of the responsibility obviously has to be on them because you see some of the foul calls, like we completely agree to it. Like
Yeah.
Jokic was just having like
Mm-hmm.
bad bad adjustments and bad spacing on the court and getting into easy foul trouble. But having Jokic be in and out of the game so much those last 2 or 3 games where he's playing, he didn't even play all of the first quarter like he usually does, like his
Mm-hmm.
usual
Yeah.
rotation, and him just being out of that flow really cost him and his team like everything because Grant was stepping up, but when your best player just can't be on the floor, like you're never gonna win, right?
Mm-hmm. I I mean, you could say what you want about the refs. There were definitely some questionable calls and non-calls, but I think at the end of the day, we we all knew coming into this series that Jokic is one of the best offensive players in the league, but one of the worst defensive centers in the league at the same time, and that really showed itself. Uh, the Lakers were able to just get into the paint pretty much at will, get free throws whenever they wanted. They could go at Jokic with pretty much in any way that they felt like. And if he wasn't at 2 fouls by the end of the first quarter, I was surprised. Some of those were questionable calls, but I think he's just such a weak defender that I mean it's pretty easy to exploit him. And then you add in the fact that uh, there was that one game, the one game the Nuggets won, they just destroyed the Lakers on the glass. But every game since then, they got crushed on offensive rebounds.
Hmm.
And I put that on Jokic too. Dwight Howard, JaVale McGee, Anthony Davis were killing him on the glass.
Yeah,
And I think their bigs just showed how much more athletic they were. And the lack of athleticism in the front court on the defensive end for the Nuggets, I think, is what cost them the series.
yeah. Also with MPJ, every time he was on the court, he couldn't play any defense.
Yeah, none, none.
So like, I don't know how you fix that. Like, it's not
Yeah,
like he's a bad defender. It's not like he doesn't try on defense. He just is so like he's not even an NBA level defender. Like
no,
he's so bad. Like I'm surprised how he's gonna fix that. Because if he does fix that, he's a starter in the league.
because he has the athleticism. It's just
Yeah,
his awareness, his anticipation, all that stuff is really it's. You're right. It's not NBA level. That's why. I mean, Jeremy Grant's stock rose so much for me in this series.
hmm,
And there was a report that he's obviously going to be opting out of his like $6 million, $7 million player option.
yeah.
Um, he was the one big wing, whatever you want to call him, on the Nuggets that actually was able to grab boards. He made some really athletic plays attacking
Guard
the rim
LeBron.
and stuff like that. He guarded LeBron. He spent some time on Davis,
Hmm.
and obviously, like he's not going to do a perfect job on those guys, but I think he did by far the best job on the defensive end of any player in that series for the Nuggets. And I think he has to be part of their future going forward.
Yeah. The one thing you have to bring up Paul Millsap as well. Like when Paul
Yeah,
Millsap was in
yeah.
the game, he was a million times better defensively than MPJ.
Oh my
So
God.
it just looked like Paul Millsap was his defensive player of the year because
Yeah.
even though him individually wasn't that great of a defender, he was such an improvement versus like the other players
Mm-hmm.
coming in for it. So like he has to get re-signed because
Mm-hmm.
MPJ still is a huge injury risk. And when MPJ is having those bad defensive nights, he has to get subbed out for someone. And I think you have to bring Paul Millsap on like a 1 year deal as well. But the name that people aren't bringing up is Will Barton's coming back to this team. That's a 16-point scorer that could play make, guard. The only thing is he's short. He's 6'6". So he is short, but he's
Mm-hmm.
such a good diff player. Like in my opinion, he could easily be the third best player on this Nuggets team. So
Yeah.
like when he's back, that's gonna be a huge improvement. They also have a first round pick
Mm-hmm.
that they could trade for someone. I don't know who, but they could definitely trade for someone. So they have talent being added to this roster that already made the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah.
They're gonna re-sign Grant to probably a $16 million deal because that's what
Mm-hmm.
that was the reported. they're gonna re-sign Paul Millsap probably to like a vet minimum or something close to it.
Plumlee and Craig are coming off the books too.
Plumlee and Craig, I
I
think
don't know how I
Plumlee,
feel about. I really don't like Plumlee's minutes in this series. He played a lot of really important minutes because of
yeah,
the foul trouble. He's not a bad backup center, I guess, and he's a pretty decent passer too.
yeah, that's why
But
I
I
think you
mean,
bring him in.
yeah, I don't know because yeah, he can make some of the passes Jokic can make. Obviously, not
Mhm.
even half of them, but he's a pretty decent passer for a big guy. Um,
I would say he's the best passing bench like
yeah,
big man
yeah,
in the league, and I think
totally fair.
he'll probably be on a cheap deal because I don't think anyone besides
No,
Denver
yeah,
really incorporates a style like that. So they're like a match made in heaven. I think Plumlee
yeah,
has to stay
honestly,
there.
yeah, that's
Uh,
true.
for me, Craig becomes disposable depending on what happens with Will Barton and Gary
Hmm.
Harris. If one of them gets traded, then obviously Craig probably gets re-signed. But Craig's gonna lose a lot of minutes because all those minutes that he was getting, Will Barton, if he stays on that team, that's Will Barton's minutes. So he might leave just to get some minutes somewhere else because he's shown that he's a quality like tenth ninth man on a
Yeah,
team,
yeah,
and
definitely.
he's shown that he deserves minutes.
Yeah.
But this team is definitely, I think it's going to be quite different from what we see right now.
Hmm. I think they're gonna get better. I think.
Yeah,
I mean, they lost 4-1 to the Lakers in the conference finals, but it was actually a really close series. I think when your best player, by far your best player, maybe not by far, but when your best player is not on the court for some of the most important stretches of the game, your your LeBron's not going to lose those games. That's just not going to happen. This series easily could have gone 6. It easily could have gone 7. If it weren't for that kind of miracle buzzer beater shot by Anthony Davis, this series could have looked a lot different.
hmm
Um, I think the Nuggets have to feel good about definitely have to feel good about this season, and I think they're going to be even better next year. Because
the
I
question,
think with the level up, the the 6 levels that Jamal Murray jumped up this playoffs,
yeah,
like they have one of the best duos in the league. I think they they're like a top 6 duo in the league probably.
yeah. The question is Jamal Murray going to maintain it? Because he averaged 18-4 during the
Hmm.
regular season,
Yeah.
and in the playoffs he averaged 25-6.
Oh my God.
Like, which Jamal Murray are we going to get next regular
Yeah.
season? Are we getting
Yeah.
this 25-6 guy? Are we getting a slightly close to that guy who's averaging like 23-4?
Hmm.
Or are we getting the 18.3 assist Jamal Murray that's not even an all-star, not even an all-star contention? So I think it all
Yeah.
comes down to him. They're going to put the roster around him. They have the pieces.
Hmm.
Jokic is going to be Jokic. He's a top 10 player in the league. He proved that.
Oh
And
yeah.
you just have to like, let's see what he could do with Jokic. Let's see if you could be that second player that you were at this playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah. He, you're right. He can't average 18 again in the regular season. I want to see him average 22 at least.
Yeah,
Um, and I think that's pretty fair to expect. If you can average 26 in the conference finals or whatever, I'm pretty sure you can score 26 points against like the Washington Wizards when you play them in the
yeah,
regular season. Yeah.
yeah. The one name I want to throw out before we end this is Eric
Yeah.
Bledsoe. I think he'll be sick on
Hmm.
this team, and I think one first round pick and Gary Harris's contract, obviously because the OKC Thunder are
Hmm.
gonna get whatever this like they're gonna get Eric Bledsoe and ship him
Hmm.
off. So I think OKC would much rather have that pick than Eric Bledsoe's contract. And I would love
Yeah.
to see Eric Bledsoe on this team. He's on a 3-year deal. He's going to be there for a while, and he's an all
Yeah.
defensive type player. Let's Jamal Murray move to the 2 and shoot. I like that.
That's actually really interesting because it didn't really show in the conference finals and even in the
hmm
second round because they didn't play any good guards because Lou Williams sucked in the second round.
Yeah,
Um, but their guard defense, it showed against Donovan Mitchell
Donovan
and
Mitchell.
even Mike Conley in the first round. So
Yeah,
if they could bring in another guy that can guard small guys, that'd be really nice. And I agree with you that Jamal Murray is probably more suited for the 2, but I
yeah,
was kind of shocked by how good his playmaking was in the conference finals. Like I've never seen him make some of those passes. Like just it looked like he had eyes in the back of his head. Looked like he took a page out of Jokic's book and was just literally. I don't know how we were seeing these guys. The second he
yeah.
got double teamed, the second the help came, he would just find them with a perfect pass. And I was really surprised by that. But if he can give you that playmaking, that secondary playmaking out of the 2 guard spot,
hmm
that'd be crazy. I think that'd be huge.
Yeah, and the reason I brought up Eric Bledsoe was because even on his current team, he's probably the third playmaker with Giannis first and Middleton
Yeah,
second.
yeah.
So I think on this team, he could fit right into that role with
Mhm.
Jokic first and Murray second, and I think it'd just be a match made, like, it'd be such a good piece to put into
Yeah,
the roster.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
this team could really push for a top seed in the West during the regular season at least.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree.